Does consciousness evolve beyond time? Now we need to understand how the consciousness evolves. Uh, we know with experience and through our learnings that the nothingness or Shivatva itself is nothingness. Shiv in within himself exists in form of nothingness. So this zeroness or nothingness can have two directions. Now, because it is consciousness, it is aliveness, and because it is aliveness, therefore it has a speed. If it do not have the speed, it would be dead or zero. Thus, the condition or the ability of the consciousness is to have two directions. Either it can go into the direction in which there is no knowledge, there is no knowing, to the unknownness, or towards the knowledge, or the agreement of self, or that is towards the unity within self. And when that self is agreed upon, because there is no one except that Prabhu, there is no one except Bhagwan Shiva. So how would he realize his own self? He would realize his own self into that fundamental speed, because it is consciousness, it is aliveness. Thus it has to have a speed. And would be that speed? That would be the fundamental speed, or the speed of God, or the paramgati, which we call as paramgati. Thus we realize at this position that Brahma Tattva is realized in this position, and the Brahma Darshan of God is in form where only the light and only the speed, the Nirakar Roop, the only the speed of light evolves, magnifies it into the magnitudes of infinity, increases its own speed towards the infiniteness, and then again return to own self, still having infinities of infinities at every occasion or existential observational condition or existence. Thus this is a stable state. Because it is a stable state, it is also known as truth or satya. And because it is satya, it is everlasting or eternal, therefore it is sanatan. Therefore it is also termed as sanatan. So this is the fundamental place of the sanatan condition, one of the fundamental place of the sanatan. Now if nothing exists except this Brahma Tattva, and if he wants to change or create the creation, or if he wants to know with agreement, if he agrees to its own knowledge, own wisdom, yes, that I exist, or yes, there is existence, of whose existence he will know, because there is no one else. So he will know only his own self. And how do we know our own self? I. I call me as I. I know myself as I. I call myself as I. You call as yourself as I. Therefore, the Param Tattva Main is also called Main or I or Atma or self. Therefore, at that fundamental position, the Param Atma is called as Paramatma. This is the fundamental position of consciousness where selfness or knowledge of self arises. Therefore, it is Param Atma, the fundamental self. And it we are also that integrated and internal part. And when, because there is nothing except that Brahma Tattva. Thus, if there is any change from Nirakar towards the creation, then the position would change. So, where would be that position? That position would again be into the zeroness, because was nothing other than zeroness. Therefore, the condition of nearest or the farthest point are same. Thus, he will see himself into as an entity of light, a small light, a curvature of light, and that is the self of nature, or the self of Shakti, or the self of us, or that is the fundamental position of our I, our Atma. Okay, and when we reach at that Atma, we realize that it is not Atma. We do not exist. It is the Atma of Paramatma. Thus, there is no I as the fundamental condition. Thus, as I, we do not exist fundamentally. Okay. Coming to the next part. If we, acha, now we need to understand the first moment when the realization happens. That would be the moment of time also. Thus, the creation again, or the time, or the observation of the fundamental observer, or the creation, or the will of creation has two directions to go through. Either that he can, that observation or that light or that self can go towards the incremental dimensions, from second dimension to the third dimension, and create the creation, or it can return to the self. If it returns to the self, the value of time would be zero, because when it has returned to the self, no change has occurred in the condition of infiniteness or of the Nirakar. Thus, there is no time, there is no creation. But if that fundamental observation from the fundamental existence or Shivatva travels and agrees towards the creation, then the unity, then the time is also exists, and the value of time would be what? The first moment. Therefore, the creation would be created only in the one moment, only in the first moment, and every creation that could be created would be created in that moment. Now, if we uh, calculate that part, we would come to the conclusion that between the Shivatva and Shakti, the resultant is as 45 degrees. Thus, unity is achieved at the 45 degrees, and the sun or the creation is seen at the 45 degrees as the resultant. Thus, the Chetana or consciousness now has three positions. The either it would have stayed into the zero as the fundamental consciousness Shivatva, it would have been in, can stay into the Nirakar, and there is no creation. And from that Nirakar, this creation starts. Thus, the first differentiation of the consciousness as I is known, as self is known, and then to analyze that truth of self, or for the creation, the creation, the time exceeds into the creation, or to form the creation, or into the evolution, or thus higher dimensions are created. Okay, so it would be at 45 degrees. So the first time the creation exists, and that first, in that first moment, the sun is born, the creation is born, and every creation that could be created is born and exists. And how it exists now, here we need to understand that, let's say there are infinite conditions, but let's say there are 10 conditions, there were 10 points of existence in the first clock. First second is about to tick. In the second clock, it is already on the second tick part, and it would tick to the third. The third clock is already showing third second, and it is ready to go in the fourth. Similarly, there are infinities of time clocks, and they are all synchronized. The moment the first clock clock ticks to the first seconds, the second clocks tick to the second, third to the third, fourth to the fourth. Similarly, the infinities of the creations gets created into that only one moment, the first single moment. And now where are we? We are into the clock of the universe, where our clock cycle is of 24 hours, that is around 84,000 to 86,000 seconds, something 84,600 or 86,400 seconds. We are that far from that singularity or that duality. Now what will happen? We come to the question: does the consciousness evolve beyond the time? So now we have seen the places of consciousness into the zero, into the Nirakar, from Nirakar to the Sakar, or the first self of as ourselves, as I, the first fundamental I, then to the creation of being Sun, and then from Sun, we, the fundamental Panchbhut, are created. Here, it is uh, it is very important to guide you into the part where this was told by Sri Krishna to the Arjuna. There is a slok in the Bhagavad Gita which states that Nenam Chiddanti Sastani Nenam Dahati Na Pavakah Na Chenam Kledayanti Apo Na Shayati Maruta. In other words, that consciousness or that Atma or what we call as soul cannot be cut by uh, any utensils or swords or any war things. It cannot be, get wet through water. It cannot be burned through fire, and so on. Such things. Now, I think you would have understood the basic condition why it's been said by Sri Krishna.